This video is going to be a slightly different take on setting targets. In this video, I'm going to look at some of my investing targets over the course of 2022 and how we're going to look at them in a slightly different way. I'm also going to look over my YouTube channel targets and again, going to take a slightly different view on how we're going to look at those targets as well. My investing portfolio is currently sitting at around about £27,000 the last time I checked. This is across Hargreaves Lansdown and Trading 2 and 2. I'm trying to reach financial independence by the time that I am 50. That is in 12 years time. And to me, financial independence looks like an investment pot of about £500,000. It's really crude, but a £500,000 pot where I used the 4% rule. Don't forget, the 4% rule is a theory whereby you can take out 4% of the value of your portfolio every year with a high level of confidence that it won't go down. This means that technically you're never going to run out of money so long as you only take out 4% out of that portfolio every year. So £500,000 pot where I sell off 4% every year is going to give me £20,000. Now £20,000 is enough money to pay all of my bills and give me a little bit of spending money on the side. So once I reach a point where I've got that, where I've got a £500,000 pot, I am technically then financially independent. So there's no quote that better illustrates my approach to both investing and actually my YouTube journey than that by Bill Gates, where he said, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. It's taken me nearly 2.5 years to get a pot of £27,000. It's taken me nearly a year to get 900 subscribers on YouTube. The early years are hard and progress is slow, but you have to do all the heavy lifting up front. And progress is slowest in those early years. But after a few years, compounding takes over and bang, all of a sudden, momentum is doing all the heavy lifting. You've done the hard work up front and now it's momentum's turn to take over and things get so much easier. You do the hard things now, so in the future things can be easy. If you want to do the easy things now, then I'm afraid the future is going to be harder. You just get to choose your hard. So going back to Gates' quote, I think that too many people look at targets and look at plans and they look at only inside year. I don't think they look far enough out. My plan is 12 years. I've got a 12-year plan around trying to create a portfolio of assets that's going to sustain my life. So if I break that down then just to 1 year, what does it look like? Well, looking back at the calculator site and assuming a growth of 9%, then my portfolio should be worth just over £48,000 this time next year. But that is making an assumption that I cannot control. That's assuming that the market will grow by 9% over the next year. And whilst yes, that is the average return over the last 100 years, it certainly doesn't happen every year. So if I set my target this year of getting a portfolio of £48,000 and the market tanks and I end up with just £40,000, or worse still, all of those clickbait YouTubers predictions come through and the market has one of its worst crashes it ever has and the portfolio is worth less than it is even now, then I'm going to almost feel like I've failed. But the reality is there's actually nothing I could have done about that. There's nothing that any of us can do to control what the market's going to do over the next 12 months. Equally, the market could double and it could have had its greatest years in 100 years. My portfolio is going to be double. I'm sitting on a pot of £100,000 and all of a sudden I think to myself, well, I've smashed my target out of the park. I've absolutely nailed it. When in reality, there's nothing I've actually done to contribute to that. So I'm taking back control. Not like this, knobhead. So my number one target in 2022 is something within my complete control. It's around the amount that I'm going to be investing every month. So long as I don't lose my job, I can continue to invest about £1,500 every month according to my budget. So £1,500 a month is what my target is going to be. £1,500 every month invested into the stock market. And if I don't manage this, then I've only got myself to blame. The market can grow by 50% this year. It can drop by 50% the year. There's absolutely nothing I can do about that. In the long term, it's going to rectify itself. What I can control is the amount that I'm contributing into my brokerage account every month, and that's target number one. Second target is to increase my allocation into funds. So as I've said, my portfolio is around £27,000 at the moment. I've got £12,600 invested into funds and I've got £14,400 invested into individual businesses. So when you break it down, that means that I've got 47% into funds and 53% into individual businesses, and this for me with my tolerant risk is actually just a bit too risky for the way that I want to play it. So what I'm going to try and do is rectify that over the course of this year, rebalance my portfolio, and I'm looking at having around 60% into funds and 40% into individual businesses. Again, that's something I can control. There's a limit in terms of the amount of growth that we're going to see within some of those businesses and some of those funds that could fluctuate it here or there. So I'm not looking at exactly that percentage point, but that's something that I'm aiming at for target number 2. Target number 3 is around tinkering less with the portfolio. I've bought and sold a number of different businesses over 2021. Actually, that's not completely fair. I've probably bought and sold 5 or 6 different businesses over the course of the year. But as I've said a million times before, the more you tinker with the portfolio, the worse your returns are going to be. So unless there's some sort of spectacular opportunity to buy a business that I've identified that is going to absolutely fly for whatever reason, or unless there is something that's happened to a business I already hold whereby I am really concerned about their future potential, then I'm going to be trying to just dripping into the businesses I already hold and not buying or selling new ones. Now, this is actually a bit of a difficult one because the way that fintech is going at the moment, the likes of Trading212, the likes of free trade, they make it very, very easy to buy and sell stocks, and in reality it's in their interest for you to do so. So you need to be a little bit disciplined in this area and actually focus on that long-term goal. So that's target number 3. Fourth target is to learn actually as much about another different type of investing as I possibly can. Now, I'm not talking about crypto here because I still do personally believe that's too much like gambling at the moment. But what I'm talking about here is learning about how to perhaps invest into property, learning about how to invest into startups or any other way of generating some sort of income. Clearly, I'm doing YouTube, but so far that has been a drain on costs rather than generating an income. But going back to old Bill, this is a long-term play. So hopefully in the future, it'll generate a nice little income on the side. But what I do want to do this year is learn about another avenue to be diverse my own portfolio as much as I possibly can in terms of generating a new form of income. I haven't identified what that is going to be yet. So if you've got any ideas, drop a comment below and let me know. Perhaps something that you've got experience of, something that worked for you. Next up is around my own personal development. And when I first started investing, I read every investing book that I could possibly get my hand onto. Over the last 6 months or so, I've started reading more and more books that aren't really about investing. And that's fine because I've really enjoyed the books. But what I want to do is get back on track with my own personal development around learning as much, continuing to learn as much as I can about this world. I use Audible as I find it really easy to digest books. So I get 1 credit every month. So I get 12 credits over the course of the year. So what I'm looking at for this target is 10 of those credits to be used for buying investing books only. Let me know below any books that you recommend that I should add to my list that I should be reading over the course of the next year or listening to over the course of the next year. And actually, if you haven't tried Audible, I think it's a fantastic tool for listening to books, doing whatever it is you're doing, potting around in the garden or even driving to work, whatever it may be. I'll put a link below whereby you can get started with that. I think it's a really good way of consuming some of the investing books that are out there. So those are my investing targets. I'm going to do a review at the end of the year to see how I've tracked against them. But what I've also said I'm going to be doing is looking at some of my YouTube targets as well. So again, taking on a similar vein, it is only going to be stuff that I can control that's within my own capability. And first up, last year I tried to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year and I didn't make it. It almost felt like I had failed because I put so many hours into trying to achieve that one specific goal that at the end of the day I didn't actually control. But it couldn't be further from the truth. It wasn't a failure at all, in fact. And when you look at the achievements within it, I built a community of almost nearly 900 people. I learned a whole load of new skills. I met a great bunch of people online I never would have met before, and I did something that I didn't even think that I'd be able to do in terms of creating videos, putting them out there. When I did my first few videos, I don't know if you've seen any of them, but they were completely faceless. They were just printing off the screen and I couldn't even line that up properly. So I've managed to increase my capability over the course of the year. I've put over 90 videos out over the year. So I'm actually really, really proud. And I think it's important sometimes to recognize how far you've come and actually give yourself a bloody break. I mean, it's not easy doing some of these things and you need to recognize and reframe it into a way where actually you've achieved a lot. So I'm really, really proud of that. And again, back to old Bill, imagine what this channel could look like in 10 years time. So I don't want to beat myself up again in 2022 like I did last year. So I'm not going to be setting a subscriber target because at the end of the day, I don't control if someone presses the subscribe button or not. All I can control is the content that I put out there. So with that in mind, I've set 3 targets over the course of the year. Number 1 is I'm going to be putting out a minimum of 50 high quality videos that I can consider myself to be really proud of. Now you'll notice that this is nearly half of the amount of videos I put out over the course of the last year, but the concentration is going to be on quality rather than quantity here, and it takes longer to create better videos. So that's what I'm going to be aiming to do. Number 2 is I use a piece of software called DaVinci Resolve, which is a great piece of software. I love it. It's fantastic. It's got millions of different facets to it that I don't even know about, and that's what this target is. I probably know about 10% of DaVinci Resolve, so I'm going to be trying to put an hour away a week to learn this program as much as I possibly can, try and improve my ability with it, and hopefully that will mean that the quality of the videos that I'm putting out are going to get better. And number 3 is I want to grow my network. Over the course of the last year, I've made friends with a few creators, most of whom you probably have watched their stuff, as they're really high quality creators that are out there within the UK investing scene. I want to actually meet some of these people in person, as COVID and other things to date have stopped that from happening. It is so important to surround yourself with like-minded people who are going to push you, who are going to support you. And that goes for whatever it is you're trying to do. Imagine you're playing squash against someone once a week, every week. They're not as good as you, and you're beating them every week. You're smashing them to pieces every single week. The only person that is going to get any better at squash in that scenario is the person you're playing against. You need to surround yourself by people that are going to support you and push you, but also people that you aspire to, people that are better at you, whatever it is you're trying to do. Learn from these people. That is the greatest and quickest and best way of growing. So I want to meet some of these people, and I also want to meet new people as well, new creators in the YouTube finance community. I also want to meet new creators in the Instagram finance community as well. I want to grow that network even more. And for YouTube, that's it for 2022. So I don't want to overcomplicate it. I want to consistently put videos out. I want to improve the quality of those videos, and I want to grow my network. It's as simple as that. And if you yourself want to get started into investing this year, then I suggest you go watch this video here, because I promise you, you're going to get a lot out of it.